How Washington was formed. Before Washington had a name, before borders were drawn on maps, this land was already alive. Forests stretched endlessly across mountains and valleys. Rivers carved their way toward the sea. Along the coast and inland waters, people lived in balance with the land for thousands of years. This was not an empty place waiting to be discovered. It was already home. For generations, indigenous nations such as the Coast Salish, Chinook, Yakima, Spokane, and Nez Perce built thriving societies. They followed the seasons, fished the rivers, and traded across vast distances. Salmon was more than food. It was life, culture, and survival. Their connection to the land shaped everything they knew. In the late 1700s, change arrived from the sea. Tall ships appeared along the Pacific coast, carrying Spanish explorers, followed by British traders. They came seeking trade routes, resources, and influence. They planted flags, drew maps, and claimed land that was already lived on. The region became known as the Oregon Country, vast, undefined, and contested. For years, it existed in uncertainty, claimed by both Britain and the United States, governed by no clear authority. Far to the east, a powerful idea was taking hold. Americans believed in manifest destiny, the belief that the nation was destined to expand westward. Settlers packed their lives into wagons and traveled across plains, deserts, and mountains in search of land and opportunity. With every mile west, the future of this land was being rewritten. In 1846, tensions between Britain and the United States were resolved through diplomacy. A border was drawn along the 49th parallel. Everything south of that line became American territory. The land that would one day be called Washington now belonged to the United States. At first, it was governed as part of the Oregon Territory, but settlers north of the Columbia River felt distant from power and decision-making. They wanted their own government, one closer to home. In 1853, Congress agreed. Washington Territory was created, named after the nation's first president. Olympia was chosen as its capital. The political foundation of Washington had been laid, but growth came with conflict. As settlers moved in, native tribes were pressured into treaties that stripped them of their land and rights. When promises were broken, resistance followed. Wars erupted across the territory as indigenous nations fought to protect their homelands. By the late 1800s, most tribes had been forced onto reservations. Washington continued to grow, but at a heavy cost. Railroads cut through forests, logging camps, farms, fishing ports, and mines transformed the land. Cities like Seattle and Tacoma expanded rapidly, fueled by industry and immigration. Washington was no longer a distant frontier. It was becoming a state. On November 11, 1889, Washington officially became the 42nd state of the United States. Its journey, from ancient homeland to modern state, was complete. But its story was never simple. Washington was formed by rivers and forests, by indigenous nations who lived here first, by settlers seeking opportunity, and by conflict, compromise,